Not all here.
We're streaming.
Even the chief's not here. Or just, oh, there he is. Okay, now I can call the meeting to order.
I'll just put that on mute.
6:05.
They can hear us, we can't hear them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the public service meeting. Discussion of topic of discussion, proposed pay schedules. And we'll continue where we left off the last time. I see you've given us the information from Yellow Springs.
Yes, I got to give you the information for Yellow Springs and New Carlisle. And I'm waiting on one more, hopefully get that this week.
Okay.
And then the ones I requested will all be turned in. And then also I give you the job descriptions for everybody that we have employed currently. I know that on another page on the motion or on the salaries and wages, there are other positions, and we have job descriptions for those, but those are not filled at this time, so I didn't bother to bring those out. Those were just, I guess, extra job positions that from previous years that they've created or something like that. So the job descriptions you have are up to date and in front of you for all the positions, employees that we have on my side.
Okay, good. So, because there's a lot of verbiage there, I think it would be a good thing for us to look those over. How did you see it compared to what we had from the other communities?
I didn't look at them real extensive, but I'm thinking, some were close, some weren't. I think, there's a little, room for improvement myself that, that we should probably discuss and talk about, and hopefully we can get it resolved in a pay scale per se, like we've all been talking about. So
Okay.
there's one more sheet that I give you too of current. I know it was discussed about what kind of licenses, certifications, etc. could be available to employees. And on the admin side, I listed it out there. At the top, it says licenses and certification opportunities for employees. I mean, the employee could get a water operator 1, 2, 3, or 4, lab certification, water distribution 1 and 2. CDL Class A or B with the CDL endorsements of a tanker, hazmat, air brakes, double, triple axle, trailer, pesticide license, gives you 3 examples there of pesticide certifications that they could possibly get. Clerk of courts they could get. And then the middle or the bottom section there are current employees with current licenses that they currently have. I've got a water operator 1, pesticide license for core, industrial vegetation, mosquito, turf, and aquatic, pool certification. Christy is a certified clerk of court, and she's also certified records commission holder. Jason, water operator 3, he's lab certified. He does have a Class B CDL with air brakes and tanker. Wayne is a Class 1. He's lab certified. He has a Class B with air brakes. Steve is a dual license water and wastewater operator 3, lab certified, and he has a CDL Class B air brakes and tanker. And then Doug has a Class A CDL air brakes, tanker, double, triple axle trailer endorsement. So those are the current licenses, certifications that the employees have. So like I said, there's room for improvement, that people, for advancement, I guess, or not advancement, for licenses, things like that for employees or future employees there.
Do you have anything to add, Mike?
I can't add. I don't have any of that, so no.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, my
Okay.
packet. Do you have an extra one laying around somewhere?
Here, I'll give you this one.
Okay, while you're looking over that, Ben, do you have anything to add or questions or?
No, you answered the only question I had. Was there a different? Because it said water and wastewater. I just you said dual certification.
Yeah, he has a dual license, yeah. The
So-
only thing on the establishment of wages and salaries, the 2020 list that was passed, the water treatment operator of record would be Steve's classification, and that $500 a month is incorrect. So we had to actually, I guess there was no job description for that position. So between him and I and Jason, we came up with that job description, basically what he does. So
Okay.
there was on the job descriptions that I printed out for each of the employees.
Oh,
Yeah, those on
Okay.
on Steve. Steve is the water treatment plant operator of record, and we had to kind of come up with basically his duties, and so that's what we came up with. What he does,
Okay, so Steve's the operator of record.
right? And what I was saying,
Okay.
there, I don't know. It says $500. Maybe not on yours. I don't know. On it might have been an old one
Yeah, I don't see it.
on this sheet, Brenda.
On the one you gave us the first time.
Oh, the first. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this one, okay.
It was on this one right here.
Ta-da.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes, sir.
may I interject a
Of
comment?
course.
We had Jason Rose that came back and worked for us on contract, and he was considered our operator of record. We were paying him $500
Okay.
a month. Is that what that says?
At that time, yeah, $500 a month.
So that might be one of those, just something to throw out that you may want to get rid of off of the list. I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
because he's more in line. He's making $29.32 right now.
That doesn't apply to anybody now. That $500 doesn't apply to anybody.
Right, correct.
Yeah,
Correct. That's
it
why
was it was specific to one person with a particular situation
Because he was contracted.
because he was with the city of New Carlisle,
Right.
and we said we need you over here as well.
I remember
So it was
that.
real specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I say, Steve's
Okay.
Steve's wage right now is $29.32. So looking, he would probably to develop a range, he'd probably be in the range of that water superintendent range, 20 to 35. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Because he'd pretty much, he can run the plant, he does all the testing, EPA stuff, so, and same as Jason as well. Jason's just not the operator of record. Steve's the one that fills out, signs his names to all the EPA reports, things like that, sends them in. But along with that, he is capable of running the plant and doing all the tests required and things like that, so.
So is there a water superintendent right now? Like
Jason.
someone who has it, so that's his designated title?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
Jason is the
but Steve
superintendent.
also does those jobs, I'm assuming?
And Steve is capable of being down there and doing that. He has to be down there so many hours to do lab things like that to keep his lab certification. But Steve is mainly here part time, 20 hours a week doing paperwork, getting all the EPA stuff, training for us guys. He handles basically all the paperwork and that needs to be turned in and stuff.
But if I may make one comment, you couldn't swap Steve and the superintendent out. Steve is more of an office type of person, and if you have something that's going on out into the system, that's not his forte.
Right.
Just like me, you get older and you're more settled in the office, so you couldn't switch those out really because of the nature of what Jason does and just the nature of what we have Steve doing.
Okay, so Steve's more office, paper shuffling, training.
Keeps all the regulations together for Jason.
Keeping things
and-
together, and Jason's the one that does the field stuff mostly.
Steve reports to Jason, so Jason dishes out, and then what happens is if something were to occur, that's comes under Jason. Jason's out there for the emergencies, and
Like the
Yeah.
And
water,
he
like
runs
the-
the plant too as well.
like the
Jason.
main breaks and stuff like that we've had. I've seen Jason's
Right,
usually the
right,
one there. Okay.
Right.
but Steve's capable of
Right.
plant operation and that type of stuff. But
If
just
need
getting
be,
kind of
yeah.
like me, it's like if something big happens, I'd have to sit there and think about it. And Steve's the same way.
Yeah. Going on down that list, administrative assistant clerk of courts, that'd be Christie. Water treatment plant operator, that'd be Wayne. The next one we do not have. The plant operator of record would be Steve. Next one, special projects coordinator, we do not have. Maintenance foreman, that would be Doug. General labor, that'd be the part-times. Right now, just Preston. And moving on down to secretary, building clerk, that'd be Lois and Angie. So that kind of sums it up. Who's under those titles there?
Okay, then we have, it's continuing, we have the chief is obvious. We don't have a lieutenant, we do have a sergeant, and then we have police officers.
Correct.
Okay,
We have one full-time police officer, one to move into a full-time spot,
okay.
of course, part-time.
Other than the fact that they're working more hours, is the salary different for each position?
We just have that pay scale that we have to go off of,
Okay.
which, like I gave you.
For how,
Yeah, this is.
length of time on and,
Yeah, so they're all, you're part-time, they get a 6 month, their initial starting rate, and then 6 months after that, because they generally are done with field training and out on their own. According to ours, they go up, they start it, and this is old, this is actually 15s, it was just an old piece, but I can tell you, they start at $12 an hour part-time, and after 6 months, successful completion of their probation, they go to 13. And then at 1 year from their anniversary date of hire, they would go up to, 14. Yeah. And then 2 years in, 15, 3 years in, 14, or 16. Up to 5 years is where it maxes out at $18 an hour. So if they've been here for 5 years at a part-time status, the top rate is 18. Doesn't have anything, evidently there's no raises for training or anything like that. Full-time's the same way. It starts out, if you start at full-time, $18 an hour for a full-time officer starting out. They would be eligible for a raise 1 year from their hire date, which would take them up to 19. And then again, maxes out at the six years. After 6 years in, they should be making $24 an hour. And again, there's nothing in the books for any extra training or anything like that.
okay.
So, and it says years means years of service at the Enon Police Department, not calendar or fiscal years, but rather a date of hire, anniversary date to the hire date. And it says step pay increases are conditional on successful passing of annual evaluations. But so that's all we have as far as pay established. And as far as the job descriptions, I have a job description for a police officer, and then of course our sergeant. I could make copies of that and get it to you guys whenever.
Okay. So I do have a question, Mr. Mayor, even of you. We're discussing proposed pay schedules. We have pay schedules that look like this. Is our proposed pay schedule supposed to look something like this as far as when it's in writing, come to you? I mean, it will come to you like this or to the
It
council like
could,
this?
and if it's determined that we have a nice, neat step breakdown from point A to point B, that would be great.
Okay,
But just something that, yes, to
just
answer
so I
your
know what
question,
it's
yes.
going to actually look like, rather than in somebody's head. Okay, and now I see, when I'm looking through, Kevin, I'm looking through the Job descriptions, I see almost all of them. The salary has something to do with the recommended by the village administrator to the mayor. So are you contemplating any of that? If there's to be any increases? Is that something that,
The only, I mean, with the part-time, him and I was talking and, I mean, and then going, with that range, kind of deciding with coming in with what experience they have and things like that. And that's where, like I say, if we developed something where, okay, this person has 3 years of experience, he brings us in, this is, where he's starting at. There's no question. It's not a guessing game, and that's where I'm hoping that this committee can develop something like that.
Okay.
Right now it's just kind of a, okay, I think he's worth $12, and based on the interview, based on his experience, things like that, so it's just kind of a guessing game in a way.
so you're wanting it to be more cut and dried?
I do, 'cause, I mean, that way the employees know from day one. I've had previous experience with that. They know from day one, okay, I'm coming in with this amount of experience. If I come in with no experience, this is what I'm making.
Right.
And looking out 10 years, here's what I'm going to be making. 15 years, here's what I'm going to be making. If I come in with 3 years, 5 years, here's where I'm starting at,
Okay, so come in with no experience, you're here for 5 years, you get an evaluation through those years. As the job evaluations go, then you see that there's progress in their learning abilities and their actual work ability, et cetera, then that's when they get the pay raise. It's all qualified on the evaluations, correct? Not just, I mean, it can be per year, but doesn't how they're working have something to do with it? I mean, if I just come and do the job, but just barely do the job, but just enough to get it done, am I going to get what Joe Blow over here, not you, Joe, but Joe Blow over here, I'll go this way, says, he's like gunbusters and goes out of, over and above? Is he going to get better pay? Do you see what I'm saying? The evaluation
If-
difference, it's going to be hard to put it cut and dried if you've got hard workers versus just getting the job done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Mike,
that's-
how do you do it?
Well, our employees obviously can't have a negative review. They have to meet the basic standards. How we've done it in the past, well, it's all over the place. I mean, I consider myself a pretty gung-ho, all-in kind of person. I like to learn and all that. I have a training packet that is fairly deep and some pretty good high training. Was not really compensated for a whole lot of it. Others were compensated for less than that. I think more of trying to retain them. I think that sometimes we get comfortable when we have an employee that we know that likes it and likes it so much that maybe we take it for granted. I guess it's a fair word. We've had people, I know at least at our end, they've discussed leaving, wanting to apply for other jobs, and they say it's pay, so we would go to the mayor, get them a little bit more pay. But then you have others that ask for pay, and knowing that they won't leave, just completely denied. Like I said, we thought when we developed this, that's why for example, when I got hired, I don't even know what the rate was back then. They started me at, starting rate was $14 an hour. They said, of course, I'm sure Christy can attest to this. I was a very proactive officer. So I stacked them up with a lot of proactive work. And they gave me 50 extra cents in December, and it promoted me to sergeant in November, which I didn't really have a pay scale at. So basically I got a dollar raise within like a 6-month period. But I also brought experience, and then I was working. You go back to when we first wrote this in 2015. I mean, in 15, when we did this, our overturn on employees was insane, right? Remember, we had 8-10 officers, possibly, right? A year. That's expensive, especially when it costs about $1,700 just to get them standing here to get them a uniform. That's before they even clocked hit the punch clock. Over time, that costs money. So we did a pay analysis. We went all the way around. I actually still have it. And we found out, like in South Vienna, a part-time officer was making $12 an hour starting out. South Charleston, $12.56. German Township was part-time, $15 an hour. Supervisors were making anywhere from 18 to 25. And then, of course, those are Yellow Springs. Part-time was 26. Starting for full-time was 21. And those were agencies that we found in comparison. We also looked at West Milton because they were pretty close. But then you had agencies where you see zeros and blanks because they're like, we just pay whatever. So we tried the old compensate, trying to keep, but what we found is what you just said. Sometimes we were paying people a lot of money to stand around and do a whole lot of nothing. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I was here, and obviously I make mention of that. I'm like, hey, so then they bumped it up again, but it didn't match all of our employees. Me as one of them, right? And that was a significant amount of money. But again, I wasn't willing to go anywhere, right? I didn't go anywhere. So, but those are gaps that we need to fill because it's just not okay. We brought our sergeant in. He actually started here. I trained him, and when we brought him in, he had 5 years, I believe, full-time experience, and we split the difference on him and let him come in at a little bit higher on the pay scale. But, you could cut him loose. So why not?
Right.
So I think in situations like that, you almost have to make an educated guess and come to an adult decision between the two of you, the employer and the employee. This is what we're willing to offer you based off of your prior experience and the room in the chart. And if you're willing to accept it as an employee, we'll give that to you. That seemed to have worked for us, right? Mm-hmm. But to just throw money at people, what we've found on our end is you've got a very expensive, non-productive individual. So I like that you get a rate. I like our scale. I like that, because you should be paid for your loyalty, your longevity. I mean, everybody should be compensated for that. But I don't think it should be the extreme to where, you're making top dollar and you're not moving up in the company or, or doing any extra. We do have trainings down there and stuff where we've given people raises in the past because they got a training or whatever, but it was because they were asking for raises. Again, you can have this side asking for raises and they get half, and this side asks for a raise and they don't get any, or they get piece. Very sporadic. So we thought we solved that here with this, and then we had that cost of living raise, obviously, that can come here and there. I believe it was 17 or 18 we didn't get it. So the levy didn't pass, we didn't get a cost of living. Something happened. But, you might get a 3%, might get a 1%. The bottom line is it's fairly all over the place. I've seen this pay scale for a long time and always wondered, I knew where I fell on it. I just was curious. I was the only one that saw it because it was almost like an invisible line there. So what I would like to do is, and I think it's going to take a little time, but I think you come up with those really highlighted trainings that are they're needed here, right? Something here. If I get somebody that goes out and they're a traffic crash reconstructionist and all whatever levels, but doesn't really do us any good to compensate for somebody for we don't use that much. You know what I mean? But if they're going out and getting in training, whether we're paying for it or what, they still got to put the time in, and yeah, they should be compensated a little bit. I think that you should have a little bit of compensation, obviously, for your time in. Hence why we have the 6 years. If I have a full-time officer that's been here for 6 years and they have no aspirations to move up to a supervisory position, then I see no reason to compensate them any more than what their pay scale is. They knew that when they were here, and if you want more, then promote yourself and you'll get promoted. Unfortunately, at our end, we don't seem to have that problem because I think I'm the longest. When they developed that pay scale, the 6-year top out, I was the only one that was even eligible for a raise on the part-time. And but they didn't even realize that. You guys didn't even think about that. Because then I was told that you didn't have the money. I said, well, then why'd you make the pay scale? So we need to put a lot of thought into this so that I think that doesn't happen. But I think you can find a happy median. You got people that don't miss work, right? They're here on time every day, clocking in, looking good, boots are shined. have some sort of, I got people that are working second shift, which is really the dull shift. And you got somebody that, so for example, I'll give you a great example and I'll stop. You have two part-timers. You have one that's been here for a little bit. We've got two now. So say one comes to me and says, hey, listen, I can't work, evenings, Friday and Saturday for whatever reason, right? And we still need coverage of other shifts. So here they're doing 3-day shifts, right? Pretty nice. If you're a day person, then you can understand. Well, if you're a night person, then you really could benefit from working during the day, but you just don't only have the time in or the whatever. You're stuck doing a shift just because you want to do the job. But yet you both make the same amount of money, all right? And that seems to happen. And I've always said there needs to be some sort of shift differential, at least for second shift. And I'm not talking a lot of money. I'm talking, an extra quarter, maybe 50 cents on the hour. 50 cents on the hour, 40-hour week's only $20. But I don't see a problem with throwing somebody an extra $20. Well, they're here working, protecting this town, while everybody else is at home with their families. And, we can go back and forth all day long. It's like, oh, well, I wish if I worked down there, I could make this money and only have to do this. Or if I drove a plow truck, I could just push snow and go home. You can argue that all you want. We all chose our career paths, but they're all valuable to each one of us, some, right, or higher value than others. But the bottom line is everybody comes in here and puts in work, but we've got to decide, I think, of what the village is willing to pay for it and what is a top pay and what's a starting pay. I know sometimes I'm embarrassed when I offer my officers the same starting pay as they can get working at a fast food restaurant or sitting at the window taking a water bill payment. And that's not a shot at any of the employees. That's what I'm saying. We've moved up. We're progressively becoming a more professional entity, and so I just think that's one thing that we've missed.
All right, let me ask you two questions. One is,
Did I answer 'em?
Exactly are the shifts, the separate shifts that we?
Currently, we have 3 shifts. Obviously, they're all over. You have a day shift, which is usually 7A to 3P, or 8 to 4, 6 to 2, somewhere around that area. Evening shift is obviously afternoons, 3 p.m. and after, and then the dog watch shift, the overnight shift, which is usually 11 to the following morning. Your more active shift is going to be your afternoon shift.
Right.
That's where you don't get lunch, or you don't get to stop and eat, or maybe use the bathroom more than you'd like, and then sometimes you do.
And we don't pay shift pay
We do not
at all.
We've discussed it since I started here back in 2008, but it's never been a thing. I know some of the fiscal folks back and forth. We've had a few. They said that would be hard to calculate in. Not really. I don't think it's that complicated if you work, and no disrespect to them, but if you clock in if 3 p.m.s are considered our second shift, and that's where we're going to pay a shift differential, if you clocked in at that time, then you get an extra 50 cents on the hour, and it's up to me or whoever is tasked for doing the payroll, which is me now, to throw that in on the sheet. It can be right over there on a little side note. And I think that shift, that's usually the lower seniority shift, but why not? They're the ones, right? We're in this public service field. Those are the people who are out there getting it, right? Because they want to learn.
Right.
And it's not that much.
No.
And it gives people, right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because those are the shifts that we need the officer in the field in the first place, because there's more going on, because it's busier, so that officer is going to be busier and should.
Yeah, and we don't have
Compensated.
seniority rules. I mean, we're not a
Yeah.
union, but let's be honest. If you've got somebody that's come in here and put it in, and they come to you and they say, hey, look, I don't want to work second shift. I want to be home with my kids. So you need to, I want to move to day shift, or I want to move to third shift, or I want to do this, or else I have to go look for another job. Well, we're going to accommodate them because they're already proven their loyalty. So then that throws somebody else over here on that shift. Well, some people like it. I liked working the split. I liked my nights and thirds. I really liked that, but that was me.
Okay, so shift pay would be incentive for those who didn't really want to work it, but they're going to make a little bit more money, so
It
can't
can
fill
encourage
that
a
position.
more experienced officer
Right.
that might be, maybe they're in they need a little bit more money than what we pay. And they see that as an opportunity to make some higher earnings. So they voluntarily want to move to an evening shift. That helps our agencies. It gives us more experience during the higher time, and secondly, helps them financially.
And in my experience, if you have an opening, it needs covered. Sometimes that's,
Yeah,
hey, I'll come and pick up that shift because I'm getting the diff. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people volunteer when you throw money down.
yeah,
And again, I say it's shift, not employee, but shift compensation.
Right.
A lot of places do that, law enforcement included.
Factories do that,
Yes, they do.
Right.
you know.
Well, and
does the village do anything like that for like if like say you're on call for the weather? Is there like an on call pay or anything like that?
Yeah, they get a
If
2
they get
hour.
called in, if they get called in for, something at the water plant, they get 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's another thing
Pushing
that's
snow.
not across the board.
For snow, no, that's just,
No?
they come in and, I mean, they
Clock
get,
in and
be like overtime, but then
oh, okay, they do
Okay,
get
yeah.
overtime.
it's not a shift premium or anything,
Okay.
it's just,
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that needs to be controlled outside of, in my opinion, a supervisor standpoint. I mean, obviously, I'm in favor of it, but what if I change my mind? Because it's been done to me. Well, sorry, you can't have that. I said, well, I'm supposed to have overtime. Well, you can't have, and I'm just make an example, not a scenario or anything, just a broad. Give you an example. Well, the mayor said employees can't have more than 5 hours a week overtime. Well, I have 10 hours a week because of all this. Sorry, you can only claim 5. Well, that's not fair. Not to mention our policy book, which I still need a copy of that. I didn't get that yet.
okay.
How's that fair? But then you have another group that doesn't affect. So now I will tell you, we had that when Chief Walker was here for the interim. We did. There was a nice solution we did find with that on our end. It seemed to work. He said, "We don't have a problem you paying you 2 hours call in, but if you're here, you're going to put your work in." So since you had to go to court and you drove all the way down there and it was closed and you got a whole 20 minutes, not counting your drive time because we don't care about that, right? We don't pay for that. If you want your 2 hours pay, you have 70 minutes left, or you can claim the time that you've actually worked. You'd be surprised how many people will take their 30 minutes and go. But I like that idea because that was nice to give them an option. I'm not saying that that's on everything, but if I spend 5 minutes to come in to reset something or, sign something, I don't really see that I should be paid 2 hours every time for that, depending on how often it is. Again, you got to look at the job. And I was always told, because I was a supervisor, I answered my phone because, you were compensated for that. That's why you make so much. And then I realized I didn't really make that much. Make sense? So, like I said, I just like transparency, honesty. It just works best. If you tell somebody you're not going to pay them, then they don't ask for it. But, we do have that call in. But maybe we could massage that a little bit and say, hey, if you're called in, you have to work at least this. We'll give you 2 hours call and pay.
You know how much money is in the police budget?
I do.
Okay, is it something that will cover shift incentive pay?
It depends who's there, but I don't see why not, especially since I came in such under. But if it's not, those numbers we have to crunch. And that's why I don't want to generically say we're going to do 50 cents if we can only afford a quarter.
Right. So it's not something we can actually
With the staffing I
plant.
have right now, with the green people, the people who haven't been here for. If everybody here was at max pay, no, of course not. It would be a struggle, right?
Right.
But if we had that, that would be awesome, because we wouldn't be spending all the extra money hiring people in and out.
Well, because your budget is pulling, how do I want to say this?
And I get what you're saying, and I
Getting-
don't mean to interrupt you, but
Okay,
you're
go
right. If we have our own policy manual, we're a Lexipol agency, so we have a policy and procedure manual. However, council said we had to have the village policy in our manual because we had to follow them both, which is fine because ours is several hundred pages and yours is like 20. And they're almost repetitive, but a lot of it in there has that where if an employee, has to be clocked in on time, all that, that stuff. We did have a copy of it, but honestly, I don't know what the old chief did with it. And we weren't able to get that uploaded because ours is all online and monitored and kept. But I'm working on trying to get that in there. But in that, it says if you were called to work outside of your scheduled shift, you were compensated $2 on the hour. Now, I know that because I brought it up a couple years ago when I saw that. But I was told that didn't apply to us. Well, if it doesn't apply to me, then it shouldn't apply to everybody else. And I'm not the only one that's pointed that out. I just don't mind giving myself as an example. So if the village, if it relies on my police budget or the village's police budget to pay that, then we either need to raise the budget, or we can cut people, or we can cut that rule. You just can't do that for one and not the other. It just doesn't make sense. Or you can say that policy doesn't apply to you. You come up with your own. Follow me?
Yeah.
Because we had came up with
Yeah.
our own, and that's when they were like, no, we need this in here too. Okay, well, you're inserting rules.
So if we're keeping officers rather than them going elsewhere because of pay, we're saving money, sort of, kind of, by not having to go through the cost of hiring. What you said cost what, $1,700 or something like that?
Yeah,
Just to do that
I mean, a
background and
polygraph's $500, or psych's $4, a poly's $350 to $5. That's just for that, and it takes time out of me and any officer I assign to go and do all the checks and balances, drive to houses, knock on doors, and that's if you got somebody with a simple, because you don't want us hiring Charles Manson. So
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
yeah, but every business has a cost of looking at their employees.
Sure.
But we still count that as a cost because, like you said, we only have so much. But our uniforms aren't cheap, but they're not expensive. They last long. But not everybody is a 3230. So again, we're good where we're at, and but it would be nice to. I've been there. I started out as an auxiliary, worked my way. I was the full-time part-time officer for a long time, and I appreciated every second of it. I really did, and I was paid not here, but weren't compensated the greatest. But I knew that it would pay off because it always does. Hard work always pays off.
Do the FTOs get extra pay?
No, and
While
I'd
they're
like
doing
to do that.
That would be nice to be able to.
Yeah, and that's something very easy. I mean, I don't see any reason why anybody that's went to the field training officer and I tell them, hey, now for the next X amount of weeks, you have to teach them, and not everybody gets along personally. We just have to professionally. They should get an extra $1 on the hour for that 6 weeks. That's hands down. I mean, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, how are we doing for time?
Yeah, sorry about that. I
No,
know.
that's
This is
okay.
something we need to sit down, I think, in smaller
Yeah,
groups
it's not-
and pick it
it's gonna
apart.
be- Yeah.
We
I
can, there are 5-year plans up there, and I can tell you the police department's 5-year plans. We haven't met them all, but I know that we've tried really hard. But, policy and a procedure manual has been on it since I started here in 2008, and I believe it was on the chief that hires me since 2000, whatever he started. You know what I mean? But how long is it going to be on the books when we just do it? So we got Lexipol. That worked out great, saved us tons of money. Now we're just fine-tuning it. And I think that's great we're doing it. We just need to get it done. But we don't need to rush.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Kevin, do you have anything else?
No, like I said, I'm that type of person that I think a scale where people can see kind of works the best. So in my opinion, because that I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm getting here. If I stay 25 years, this is what I'm getting. I mean,
It helps attract and retain. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
we threw that pay scale out in 17, look at our retention since then. Look at the people that have passed up. Here's the Village of Enon. It's not like we don't pay a whole lot. You're just compensated on different levels. Full-time employees are compensated very well here. One is the village eats a tremendous portion of the health benefits, right? You guys, that was one of the things that attracted me here. That's really good. But if you have an employee that doesn't take health benefits, it's not so attractive. But again, that doesn't mean we got to give them extra money. But your part-timers aren't compensated like that, but they do a lot of our work. So I think we should pay them at least while they're here.
Yeah.
And as for the personnel policy, I think that needs to be massaged too. I mean, there's some gray areas in there, reading it, compared to some, and I think that needs to be looked at some time too. And, just like Mike said, if it's been up there a while, then why not start to address that issue as well too, and that way everybody is on the same playing field. Here's what it is, and if you can't accommodate that, then we'll advertise for another person. You know.
From working from the bottom up here, I can tell you that the policy manual is either your enemy or it's your friend. But if it's your enemy, you probably shouldn't be here, right? Or it needs fixed. But
There's some places in there that needs fixed. You know that.
From a supervisor's standpoint, it's nice because it says, hey, it's right here. It's not personal. This is what's happened. I tried to overlook the rest. This is the process. We don't have a disciplinary process here per se. That's something that we need to possibly look at down the road. And again, not crazily, but at least have some some guidelines. It'll help us.
Okay. It's like
Takes a lot.
we're taking on more than just the pay.
Yeah, we can leave the
Proposed
policy
pay
out of
schedules,
it. The
but
police compensation or the
something-
employee compensation is easy.
It's, okay, I'm gonna go back to my other questions since I wrote down my cheat sheet here. The office workers and the non-sworn, which would be the guys that work in the street and stuff, are they get overtime?
Who's that again? I'm sorry.
Anybody besides police, you all get overtime when you're working
Well, if you're
overtime.
salary people, no, I don't.
Okay,
with
your
hourly people
salary
do.
doesn't, but,
Hourly does.
All hourly employees get overtime if they work over 40 hours a week. That's what our overtime is currently set at.
Yeah.
I know some places pay over 8 hours a day. I don't think that would work here, even though everybody would like it. It would cost too much. But 40 hours, we get paid bi-weekly.
Right.
I know at your end, sometimes you're forced, or I hate to use the word forced. You have them flex out, right? If they work over this, they have them flex out the following week. And in fairness, that's not fair. I don't think that if I have to work 50 hours this week and you're going to make me take 10 hours off next week to save you some money, then maybe I should only work 40 hours this week and I'll give you my 40 next week, because you know what I mean. So we tried that down there, and I get what you're saying.
They can pay, they comp, or they flex, and
but it's
so
straight hours, right?
So far, it's okay. Hey, they can take 2 hours off on Friday, or
but is it hour for hour?
I think, isn't it?
I think it depends on which employee, right? And I don't mean that. I don't mean that bad. I'm saying one employee might be like, oh, hey, that's over 40 hours. I get compensated at time and a half. And then I got the other employee who's like, oh, well, yeah, I'll take 2 hours off Friday and it's straight. But there's no real line. It's nice when you can do that, but I have some that's like, oh, yeah, I'll flex it out, but I'll comp it first. Then I'll take off. Well, good idea, because they get more.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's up to the employee.
It's been working pretty good. I mean, the guys get their jobs done, and hey, can I take off early Friday? Came in early, like Doug. He's coming in early snowplowing, so he left today at 12:30.
I don't see a
Nothing
problem
else.
with that, and
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But it's at the employee's choice.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've forced employees to do that, and I'm saying that I don't think that's fair, because your book says that you can't do that. And these are all rare moments, but I'm just trying to think of all the stumbling blocks. That's why we're having this meeting.
All right.
okay, so what do we need to do for the next meeting? What's your homework gonna be, guys?
We need to decide what positions we have, right? And what we're willing to pay them based off of whatever.
Well, based off of what you've got to use to pay.
Yeah.
First
So-
of all, you gotta get your budget.
Do we still have a bailiff's position? That is something I wanted to ask about.
A bailiff?
Yeah, because we're in a unique situation currently as
Kristen,
far
do
as
we
covering
have a
for a
bailiff?
bailiff.
Pay a bailiff?
Well, the officer always does it.
The
and
officer
and
does.
the mayor's court pays for it. However, now I currently have a non-paid police officer because I have an auxiliary officer, and they've been covering the court. Now,
Okay.
they probably won't continue to do that forever, but we do have a decent amount invested in them, and they don't need training, and they do a good job. But if we could figure out a way, and that wouldn't matter if it came out of my budget or whose ever, but if we could establish some sort of, I was thinking bailiff off the top of my head, since that's the hours that they do. The difference between auxiliary and part-time officers are required to work 24 hours a month. And if you're an auxiliary officer, you're not held to that 24 hours a month. You only have to do 6. So a lot of people do auxiliary to hold the commission, right? But they don't get paid when they come to work. But we're not like, we supply everything for them. But
How
since
do they-
this is a scheduled thing, every 2 weeks they have to come to court because they don't want to be able. They don't currently their lifestyle doesn't give them the ability to work
Right.
a scheduled thing, and I hate to lose them. But in the same token, we got a business to run. So I said, hey, how about this? So if they have to come in this work, I can't pay them because if I pay them, then they have to move to part-time. But I can't make 2, you know what I mean? I have to create a whole nother position. So I said I would look into seeing if maybe we could, if they had if it's either that or I'm gonna have to pay the position, which I'm fine with doing too, but it's gonna have to be a very low number. If not, everybody's gonna wanna be auxiliary. Make sense? So I either pay an auxiliary officer $10 or $11 an hour, which I feel is kind of embarrassing, or I pay them more, and then everybody wants to start out at the higher rate and then transition over, but not have to work as much. So I wasn't sure if we could establish that. And I'm not thinking like a lot of money, but I don't know what we pay the magistrate and the clerks, but I'm pretty sure the guy standing here or female standing here with the firearm.
So you're saying the
Did we ever have
officer
one?
who's doing the court bailiff job is getting paid minimal 10, 11?
Well, no, that depends on which one. If you have the sergeant coming down here, obviously that costs more, but part-time. But generally, we've covered it with an officer, but now I have an officer that is auxiliary that I can cover it with, that gives him something to do, but I can't pay him because of the status he falls under at our agency.
Okay, is the money for the bailiff coming out of your budget or the court budget?
Comes out of mayor's court.
Mayor's court budget.
At least that's what we write on the thing.
Okay.
But again, and this is just minor stuff, but if we're making it, so imagine if we had it and he's the auxiliary / bailiff. He's working as the bailiff. He's he's being the officer, but he's coming in, clocks in a bailiff, and that's, if she wants him to stay here the whole 2 hours, that's fine.
So he's not getting paid
Correct.
other than the fact that he's getting to keep his commission.
That's correct.
And that's his pay.
This is the
basically.
first time we've ever had this.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
So I didn't know if we could wiggle that in there. And it could just be, it doesn't even have to have a scale. It can just be like one solid number.
Okay.
And I don't even know
So
if
in
we
order
can do
to
it.
get to that even, we would need to know what, before you were using that officer, or have you used other private citizens or other officers as a
No.
bailiff? Just always
It's always
from
been the
our-
police department. It's
The
just
police
now the
department,
person I'm
okay.
supplying isn't paid.
Okay, and have you paid them out of the court's budget prior to having our auxiliary officer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if you have it in your budget, it's already there. Why can't we just use that?
Because
Does it have to say
as
that
the
it's-
commission part and as our policy part and as an employee part, if he's employed for free as an auxiliary,
So he can't
I
get a
can't pay
separate
him.
paycheck.
right. But if
From
he
the
fills
court,
out his timesheet and
it's not enough.
says, bailiff, and we
Yeah.
have a paid position for a bailiff, and everybody agrees to it, again, we might need to check with some other folks, make sure it's legit, but, we could pay him.
Okay, so do we need to look into how to do that? I mean, legally.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
that
Yeah. I like to do
something
things
that-
legally. It helps me with
That
my
you're
job.
doing? I mean, are you looking into that, or? I mean, because I'm not an attorney, I can't look at stuff like, do we need to have our attorney look into that?
I don't know why you couldn't. I mean, but sure, I can ask. I believe, was it Paul? Or I can ask somebody. I mean, it's a title, right, on a piece of paper. I mean, we have, like, here's one. You got administrative assistant / clerk of court. That's 2 titles. So he could be auxiliary, or you could have bailiff, and then you have an auxiliary officer or police officer / bailiff, even though, because he's doing other job. I've been police sergeant and in charge of the police department. I don't know if that's not on a piece of paper, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, you filled in for the chief when he.
I mean, they're still covered
the
by
different
us, but
chiefs
at
when
least
they
it
were
gives them
going
the ability to submit a timesheet to where they're being compensated versus they turn in a timesheet with me. I can't pay them because it's not a paid position.
Right.
Right.
And again, it's minor, temporary thing. First time we've ever got it, but
Well, it's like all new to us, right? It's an all-new thing to us because have you had auxiliary officers before?
One, but not like that.
Okay.
We made that for an officer that needed to learn a little more. We just couldn't afford to pay him for mistakes, I guess, so to speak. So
Okay.
we made that. That's how that was made. So
So
now
it's-
that we have it, I used it.
Oh, okay.
I don't want any more auxiliary officers, if you're asking me. I just know that we have that one spot. And
So if the current auxiliary officer
Mm-hmm.
decides that he cannot fill that position any longer, or chooses to go back, to wherever it is that, for the reason that he left in the first place,
it doesn't matter.
then
we have an officer
use a
coming
regular
down.
officer to do the bailiff job, and
Yep.
they get the bailiff pay.
Well, they're
and
paid.
it's
Well,
not a big-
no, they're going to get. They have a pay scale. They have an
Okay.
hourly rate, so they
But-
get paid.
but
It's
part
just
of it-
this one doesn't have it.
Part of it comes out of the mayor's court.
All of it comes out of mayor's court.
No, I meant part of their pay. Part of
Yeah,
their
just the
pay.
2
Those
hours. Yeah,
hours
2
come out
hours
of
is
mayor's
we
court,
the
right.
line item. I
Right.
put her number on there. The
Okay.
line item. Yeah,
Okay.
but that's because we have a rate of pay to pay them at.
Right, but you don't the auxiliary.
I don't
get
for an
it.
auxiliary officer, so he's technically not getting paid. And I get it, the auxiliary's free, but
So
you
can
know.
can we give him a dinner?
Well, I don't like anybody working. I don't like not paying anybody, but for me to, per our policy, for me to have him in a paid position, he has to work 24 hours a month, and he doesn't want to do that. But he also doesn't want to leave. So again, this is one of those things. He's been here for a few years,
Yeah.
and
I get it.
can we do it or can we not? It's just a no is fine, a yes is fine. I just thought if we had that might be the loophole.
Okay, well, we've got, what, 6 minutes to council, so we need to
Yep.
adjourn for now. Since there's only 2 committee members here. Are you guys considered committee, right?
No,
So, no? Just us 2?
just you two.
Okay,
Oh.
so, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll
And
second.
then I guess just set up another time, and Jeremy's back and continue the conversation.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
when Jeremy comes back, we'll set up another time. How's that?
Continue the conversation.
And
And
continue?
your shoulder back up.
Okay.
Get it
back into shape. 6:55.
Are you recusing?
Oh, I didn't even have it. I'm in here complicated.
Thank you, guys.
o'clock, so I will call our meeting to order. And Mrs. Tomey, are you doing the minutes tonight, or Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you'd call the roll, please.
Mr. Hannah,
Here.
Mr. Whitaker, Mrs. Vogel,
Here.
Mr. Bear,
Here.
Mrs. Sweet,
Here.
Mr. Babcock.
Here. So we do have a quorum for our meeting, and before we get into our regular agenda, I'd like to say a few words. We, as most of you know, we lost one of our community members last week. Jim Schumann sadly passed away, and we all know him as Doc Schumann. And some of you may not know that Doc had served on council back in the mid-'80s to, I believe, around the early '90s, and then went on to serve as a township trustee for several years, and of course operated the Doc Restaurant for many years and the Enon Vet. And so our thoughts and prayers are certainly with his family. So if you would please join me in just a moment of silence in memory of Doc Schumann, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the regular session of the Enon Village Council. This is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. Do we have any additions to our agenda tonight?
Oh, have a communication, sir.
Mrs. Sweet, under Communications.
And
Okay.
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Whitaker for this evening's meeting.
Second.
And if you'd call the roll, please.
Mr. Babcock,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mrs. Vogel,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
We have the minutes of the Tuesday, January 26th, 2021 meeting, and if the council is satisfied with those, we'll need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Babcock,
Yes.
Mrs. Vogel,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
Okay, and those minutes are approved as submitted. And let's go into finances. And I know Laura provided everybody with our financial reports as of the end of January, the revenue status report and the appropriation status report. At least the one I have, the cash summary by fund, that's the current. It will not line up or match up, I should say, with the totals. That is on, let's see, I think it's the appropriation status report. Yes. You can see what we have spent so far this year. I did have a communication. Christy, help me out. It's Larry, what's his last name?
Weeks.
Larry Weeks with Clark Schaefer and Hackett. Larry files our year-end report through the auditor's office. He is in the process of working on that report, and it will be done by the end of February. Then we will have, hopefully at the next meeting, the reconciliation for January's finances. That's why we don't have them now. He's trying to get all of that stuff wrapped up. I don't know what all is involved. I do know there's a lot of what they call footnotes that are involved that gives explanations on debt, the finances in general, and what, some of our specific loans are. But in any case, Larry has been taking care of that for the village for several years and is working on that.
I did have one thing I just wanted to bring on the statements. To figure out whether we're going to be over or under requires really looking at all of them, because you need your cash as of if you look at the spreadsheet I had, the cash as of 1 January, plus your estimated revenues, which was, Tim's budget. the appropriation, which is the expenses in Tim's budget, and then what we have encumbered. And if you take the revenue plus, or the cash and revenue minus the appropriation encumbered, and that tells you whether you're over or under. And we're fine except for in the water fund. Our appropriations and encumbrance are 1407, but our estimated revenues plus the cash we had before brought in is 1255. So we're 152 in the hole now. With that said, we have the ability to go into our appropriation and make it higher if we wanted to, because our cash that we brought forward of 252 plus 1,000,003 would be 1255, and there's 1175 in there. So if it, later on in the year, I'm not saying now, but later on in the year, this is just things we need to watch to make sure that we don't exceed our appropriation, because if we do, or it looks like we're going to, then we just have to pass as a council a motion to increase that appropriation, file it with the county, and then we're fine. But right now, and everything else looks good except for that one. But we're 1 month into the year. So it's not something that we need to look at now, but I wanted to bring it to council's attention that it is something we need to watch.
I'll bring that to Laura's attention as well. That's typically what she tries to monitor, Dave, and if we get close, but I'll bring that to her attention as well. Yeah, it looks like we estimated, again, this is always a work in progress. At the end of this year, there would be about $40-some thousand in the water fund if it turned out that way. So it would be rather low if we did everything that we wanted to. So I will pass this on to Laura, though, and make sure she's aware of it. Next meeting, we'll hope to have that reconciliation for the month of January. Does anybody have any other questions about the finances? And if I can't answer them, I will certainly have Laura get back with you. Anybody? Okay, great, thank you. Thanks, Dave. And let's go to communications, and Mrs. Sweet, I will turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're very welcome.
I asked Christy to put together a letter for us, thanking Mr. Ferguson and the students at the Green and Art Department to express our appreciation to them for the beautiful hand-painted village seals that are here and on the building, or eventually going to be in the building when they're all completely put up. Anyway, she very nicely said, the appearance of our village reflects the pride our citizens have in our community. It is people like you who help make Enon the great place it is to work and live. Thank you for your generosity. And if Ben and I have already signed it, and I will let the rest of the council members and Mr. Mayor sign it, please, and then we'll send that to the art department.
Very nice, that was a good idea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Christy.
You're welcome.
Any other items of communication? All right, we'll move on to our staff reports. And Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor, council, residents. Item number one, their water bills. We now have the capability of emailing water bills to residents, and we are emailing currently. How many did you say? You told me the other day, Christy, approximately.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I forgot to write it down. But we do continue to mail out the hard copy as well, correct?
They have the opportunity to get both emailed and hard copy, or they could do just emailed or just hard copy.
Okay. So I think that's going to be a helpful item for some people that does a lot of work on the computer and stuff. So I did handle some part-time interviews or interviews for part-time applicants. There was 11 applicants turned in. I'll be making a decision here in about a week. I did interview 4 of them between yesterday and today, and I've got a couple more that are on the schedule to get interviewed. So once I complete those, I'll let you know what's going on, keep you in the loop there. So
How many, Kevin?
there was 11 applicants that turned in.
That's great. And how many do we plan to hire?
I'd like to hire 2.
Okay.
Because Seth is going to be, I think Seth is going to be out with his foot surgery.
Few more
he
months?
got one done, and then he's getting another done. I think he's going to
forgot
be
about that.
gone, for
Okay.
the rest of the summer anyhow. So, so right now we've just got Preston, and he's stepped up and helping Doug out quite a bit, plowing and stuff. And he's.
I saw him in the
he's-
truck the other day.
He's
You
working.
put him
out
in that
pretty
new
well.
truck?
Yep.
Boy,
Yep.
okay.
I told him. I said, "Now be careful." So, but no, he's working out pretty good. Doug's doing well with the snow and everything else. So they're doing good. Govdeals.com. I got the last two bidders or people coming. One's coming tomorrow, pick up his items, and then one on Thursday. So we did pull off the website or the auction, the endpoints, the MIUs, because nobody bid on them. There was only a $10 bid on it, so I told her we're not giving them away. So we pulled them off. We're going to have to have a talk to see what actually we want out of them. And then we can put some sort of reserve on them. She's got another little feature that she could do along with that too. But they're pulled off. We can relist them at any time. But the items that we did sell, we just got right around $300. So there was the various push
Total.
mowers, 2 poly tanks, hedge trimmers, pole saw.
Power
Yeah.
sprayers,
What's that?
power sprayers.
Power sprayer, pressure washer, things like that. That was just
Total
sitting around.
300, Kevin?
Yeah, it was right. Total $300. Yeah. Yep. So, in your packet, you have a Eagle Scout project. I made a copy of. I met with John Irving and his dad. Came in and he explained what he was going to do there at Enon Park for his Eagle Scout project. It's not going to cost the village anything. He's going to kind of fix up the fire pit area, as you can see on the top picture there, before and after, minus the patio furniture that's sitting there. But that's kind of what it's going to look like. He's going out. Him and his dad's going to go out and get donations and get all the material, and he'd like to start this coming up in April. So that'll be a great addition to the park. He's going to leave the benches there. He's just kind of going to redo the park or the fire pit area. So that'll
We
be- that'll be good.
typically assist with materials. I don't know whether he gave you a materials list or price or whatever, but
I told
typically
him,
those
I
guys-
said we could probably assist getting rid of the dirt, kind of scraping the sod away for him, because he was going to have to, rent a whatever, Bobcat or something to get all that. I said we could assist with that and help him out. And he was really pleased with that, because either his dad kind of smiled too. I think he was going to have to do a lot of it by the shovel. So I think we were going to help him out with that. But
Builds
now-
character.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll assist where we can. But I think that's a good start there. So that's, well, like I said, if it turns out like that, it's going to be pretty nice. So, let's see here. Want to remind everybody the office will be closed next Monday for President's Day. The blood drive we had here was really, really good. Really had good positive results. There was 40 people registered, 31 successful donors, and let's see, three of those 31 were first-time donors. So we came up with, or they gave us up a 96% goal. So they were really pleased with that. So the next blood drive is April 14th. Anybody interested in donating, they can register online at www.donortime.com. Donortime.com to register.
Are these all on Wednesdays, Kevin?
Yeah.
All these dates?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is this on our website or Facebook page as well, Kevin?
I think it was. I think we'll keep, if it is, we'll keep that date updated, yes.
Okay, because, I mean, now the CDC finally, for those of us who were stationed overseas during a period of time, we've never been allowed to give blood
Oh, okay,
because of mad cow disease. And they finally lifted that
okay.
and after 20-something years. So now,
Yeah, we'll make sure that's on there for the next time, but April 14th, so. The old copier in the building here kind of went kaputs on us. There was a network card that went bad that allowed you to scan from it, allowed you to print to it. So the only thing we can do now with it is just copy. So we don't have any capability of doing that. We got a hold of the company, and they said the network card was bad, and they could not get a replacement for it due to the age of the copiers. So we went out with the same company and got a new copier, and they are going to deliver that tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, if not tomorrow, on Thursday. Same brand, it's just more updated and have the
And
same.
do we purchase that, Kevin, or do we
We
lease that?
purchased it. We purchased it,
Okay.
yeah. It was actually cheaper purchasing it, believe it or not. We figured out that with the payments and stuff, it was gonna be almost $1,000 more to lease it, so we just went ahead and purchased it.
So some kind of warranty comes with that?
Yeah, yep. And there's a maintenance contract that's in with it, and so many copies per month, but everybody will have their own. Right now, there was just kind of one code to get in it, but we're going to get every department a code to get in it, so we can track monthly reports on copies and things like that. So
So we have a limits, what you're saying. Is that
There's-
pretty typical? You have a limit?
yeah, there's like 2,000 black and white copies
Oh,
a
goodness.
month or
Okay.
something. So
Okay.
it's. I don't think we were ever
Yeah, they're
too
way up
close to
there.
that. I'm not real sure, but
Yeah,
But it's-
the likelihood of exceeding it was probably not all that high.
yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
But two, how about making sure that we all have access to that? Because there's been some times whenever we may be up here trying to make a copy or wanting to
Yeah,
make
we
a
got,
copy and-
the police department's gonna have the code, council's gonna have a code, admin,
Copy
everybody's gonna
paper,
have a
too.
code.
We need copy paper too sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure of all that, so.
We got plenty of COVID hand wipe papers in there, that's for sure. What was the cost on that, Kevin, roughly?
5,900. It was, 5,400, and then with the maintenance contract, it was 500 a year, which was $41 a month. So,
We got how many years out of this other one that we have? Do we remember?
I don't know how long it was. I've been
So
here
we
almost
use
2.
them till we
It's-
can't use them any longer, till it becomes
Right.
not efficient. So it's not like we're gonna have this for 2 or 3 years and then have another one. We kind of hang on to ours, take care. 7 years? Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, we kind of figured it was at least 7 or 8 years
Okay.
that it's been here, so.
Now, before you came here, we wanted to try to make it a practice where we get at least 3 quotes on something when we're talking that type of.
We did.
You did?
We did.
Okay.
One was a lot cheaper, a lot smaller, a lot slower, and we couldn't get it for, what was it, 4 months or something. It was on a boat sitting out at some harbor, and but he could get us a used one.
Okay.
But it was a lot, and then the other company was more expensive. So yes,
Okay.
we did. I'll give you the 3 quotes, and you can take a look at them.
Okay.
So. Let's see, the Mayor's Court report for January. There was 5 traffic cases. The total funds received, $1,975. Total funds remitted to the state was $216.50. Total remitted to the village was $1,751 for the month of January.
I should have asked this or known this a long time ago, and it's my fault for not clarifying it, but how do we track that? I mean, is this a separate, because it says like remitted to the state and remitted to the village. Is this a separate accounting, a separate checkbook, or how do we,
There is a checking account for Mayor's Court, and then at the end of the month, I balance that, and then I send a check to Laura.
okay, and then where is that recorded? And I assume it's in the cash fund. Is that part of the revenues? That's the 9,000, or is that something separate? Where does she track that? Do you know it?
It should be on the line item.
Well, it wouldn't,
She's not tracking all of these. She's tracking exactly what was the portion that was given to the village. So
Right.
she's tracking the $1,751.
but I'm just saying, where is that within the reports? Do we know?
Should be under the general fund, under Mayor's Court. I'll find it.
Yeah, because there's a court computer, but there's nothing there for revenue. So that's what I'm trying to figure out where it shows up within our financials.
We'll get that answer from Laura
Okay.
for you.
If you look on that front page there, Dave, of the revenue status, and then you'll see court costs, court fines, other fines and forfeitures,
Revenue,
and that's on the revenue one.
There, see.
center of the page.
Yes, but that's the budget, but where does it show up? I mean,
If you look under revenue, on the revenue status report,
right, I see those two things there, but that's just what you budgeted. That's not showing where the money is accounted for coming in. Because that's nothing more than these are your budget numbers from your budget Excel spreadsheet.
right? And then if you look at the next column over where it says revenue, that would be where she would actually put it at.
Well, and I would have thought so, but since there's nothing there for the 1751, that's why I was asking.
Okay,
We'll
Because I
find
didn't
out.
see it there. I mean, it's the first place I looked.
right.
And then I saw that in the budget, these things are under the general fund, so is it, then I looked at the cash. But that's not defined there's not any detail at that. It's a lump sum for all general receipts. It says 9,000. Well, I
So tell me
don't
you have
know.
something to add?
But
Yeah,
I'll ask.
if
Okay.
you look at the
Yeah.
report, it's dated January the 31st. I did not get my bank statement until like the first Monday of the month. So I actually did not write her a check for that till February 4th.
Oh, okay,
So you're gonna see it next month.
There's
So
that
it's
delay
kind of like
in
a
there.
month delayed. I
okay.
hope that answered your question.
Okay, so we'll need a motion and second to approve that mayor's court report for January.
So moved.
And any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hannah,
Yes.
Mrs. Vogel,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Babcock.
Yes.
And then there's a letter in there to, Dave asked me to come up with a letter for the TCC board members for their meeting on Friday about Enon Xenia Road. So I just wanted to, I already sent it to Dave and just wanted to make sure everybody had a copy so you can see what was said in that, so.
Yeah, there's an upcoming TCC meeting this Friday. And we always talk about the open projects, so, I was looking for an opportunity when we talk about the Enon Xenia Road project to discuss paving from Green Vista all the way to
Main
Dayton
Street.
Springfield Road, which was the original plan, but then it has since been modified to cut it back to Green Vista. Now talking about adding it back, but when you do stuff like this, being in my world, in the finance world, I mean, you've got to show impacts. Are the commies going to take over the free world as we know it today if we don't pave this road? And so you're looking for the most hard-hitting impacts that you can to sway the other board members to approve paving the road. So
We got
that's
several
that's why I asked Kevin for something, and then
And we've had several patch jobs when where that water line breaks or,
and that's in there, right?
Are they meeting in person, Dave?
Not yet. No, we're still virtual,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
That's all I had for now, Mayor.
Questions for our administrator? Okay, you're gonna get off easy. Good job, Kevin. Chief, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Evening, everyone. First I have is financing. You need to request that we draw up financing for a police cruiser through West Banco. They had offered 3.5%, 60 months for a 2021 Ford SUV. The EcoBoost, the total purchase price of that is $47,582. I have it here. I didn't get copies there. I wasn't sure if that thing was working. I can get the estimate for you. It's the state bid pricing through statewide Ford. It's where we order each time we order one. I know that I'll need a was it a reconciliation or
Resolution.
something? Resolution. There we go. I'll need a resolution if I can get council's approval to go ahead and move forward with that. I'll ask Laura to type one up and we can have it at the next council meeting maybe. West Banco's always had the competitive price. That's where we financed in the past, and it's a little bit better percentage rate than the last one we bought.
And what is it again, Mike?
3.5%.
Good deal.
And that's a 60-month lease. They write that up as a lease, just like they did the last one.
Right.
They're biannual payments, I believe.
What is our oldest cruiser right now?
We have-
Not counting the Charger.
Nope, you're right. We have 2019 with approximately 31,000 miles on it. We have a 2017, and we have a 2015.
Thank you.
We're starting to catch up. I think next one we might. For those of you that don't know, we were supposed to buy a cruiser in 2008. This is my knowledge of it. In 2008, when I came here, we were supposed to purchase a cruiser that year. They buy them every 2 years. My understanding was correct. That was the plan. One was not purchased then. One was not purchased in 2010 or 11. Well, finally at the end of the 11. So we were 2 cars behind, because I know at one point there, and I think in 19, they said, you just bought a new car. Well, of course we did, because, well, we didn't have a choice. So that's why some of them are so close.
We just want to stay.
We
with
want a
that
nice rotation.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because when most of us kind of took over here, we had a terrible fleet, and we've done really well to get you guys. And you should have good cars and good equipment, but got to stay on that rotation.
Agreed, and we take care of them. And I think so far the SUVs, because new territory over the last few years. So far, so good. But
Does anybody have a problem with the price on this? Rick, are you good?
No,
We've talked about it. We also bannered back with the EcoBoost versus the 6-cylinder.
that's correct. This is
The EcoBoost actually was a little bit less operating cost, so not that it's going to make up the difference, in any type of great leaps and bounds, but it did have serviceability or performance enhancements compared to the V6. So
it does, and I'm sorry, I should have commented on that more. I apologize. So this is a state contract purchase, therefore you can't really get it any cheaper, to my knowledge. They've the state price for a 2021 their police package without the EcoBoost. It was $43,749, and if you added $3,833, that's a total of, that's for the EcoBoost. It's $47,582. What the EcoBoost does has a little bit bigger of a motor, or not? Well, yeah, a little bit.
more horsepower. But
It's got more horsepower when needed, but it also does get better fuel that you told me about, and honestly, it truly is the if you've seen the township deputy's patrol car, that's the EcoBoost. So
Okay.
I have a question. How much more to have all the equipment that we need?
I'm glad you asked, because I should have pointed that out. That comes with, that is a police package, so it comes with everything but the radio, which we do have. And again, I'll get you copies of this, but it comes with your dome lights, the rear back seat for the prisoners, your takedown lamps, your overhead lights, the speaker, the mic holder.
It's been similar to what we had this last car.
Yeah, the 2019, it's that. I did have them do a few modifications, like the back seat prisoner area. I like the one that we have in the 19, the one that they had originally quoted in it, but it's not the same. And I don't see why we shouldn't have stuff that's the same. So it was an additional cost, but it was yeah, okay. Looks like it was $1,100 extra, but it's definitely worth it, because that's what we have. And
They're gonna have those neat light bar across the top, like Brandon's got on the deputy car.
that is something that they purchased some of those items aftermarket. This is just what the state
Okay.
gives. You can ask to have those added on. However, in my opinion, since they're aftermarket purchases, I'd rather have them installed locally if we were going to go that route down at PNR. In case something doesn't work or whatnot, we can drive down to PNR versus going up to Van Wert and calling them. So if we want the LED running lights, like I know he's really outfitted his patrol car. I'm not opposed to that, but if that's something that the village feels that they want to add to that cruiser, we can have that simply done just going down to PNR and having that build. This'll when we get this, we just have to have the radio put in it, have it programmed, and then it's ready to go. It's turnkey and go.
Cool.
Good deal.
I know we just changed our colors over a little bit, but it'd be nice if we could incorporate this new logo someplace on the car. I don't know if that's possible or
Our patrol cars have the village seal on it already, so the new logo was just simply have the striping company change the color to it or do that, because we do have the logo on the back for those of you.
Oh yeah, okay, I know what you're
It's
talking
right there on
about.
the, it's where the key thing would be, your little Ford emblem. We replaced that with the village seal. So yeah, we could have that done. That's not an issue, I don't think. Now that doesn't include striping on the car, but I didn't put that in here, but
No,
that's not a concern. So it won't be until, it doesn't matter when we order it. We're not going to get it till summer, late summer.
Okay.
So if that's okay with you, I will,
Absolutely.
I'll ask Laura to draft it up and see if we can get that reading rule the next time. Thank you. All right, moving on to my next one. We had a full-time position come open. We took some letters of interest from internally. We did have, James McHenry, he put in for it. He meets all the requirement, very eager. And therefore he's been selected by me. I think he can step into it. I like his attitude toward work in general and law enforcement. So his goals now, again, we'll see. But he wants to be a long-term employee of the Village of Enon. He plans to beat my record of serving time. So more power to him. I'd like to help him do it. I really
Start
would.
somewhere.
And that's why, when you've got aspirations like that, I know I didn't, but I wanted to do some other things. And throughout your career, you realize that maybe that's not what you want to do. You want to go over here, but you find that out. So I was able to do that through my career. And I think it's neat to have somebody like that, especially if they're going to hang in there. And I think it'll be a fun time. I don't think he'll realize how quick that would come, but if I get to retire when I'm supposed to, and I am still here that amount of time, we have about 12 years to mold him into a chief. But again,
Seems like it's been a lot longer.
I know that's because that's just me.
So if you select him, Mike, you're going to have to hire another part-timer?
Well, yeah, I've extended a conditional offer to one who's scheduled to, his background has started. The background packet is extensive. It's very thick, and depending on how many, I hate to say age, but depending on how much life you've lived, depends on how much fill in the blanks you got to have,
Right,
because it
exactly.
asks for everything, sisters, mothers, brothers, neighbors, nephews. So I got one of those back, and I'm starting that now. I have no doubts that this gentleman will make it through. And then I have another one that's in the line I'd like to make a conditional offer to. But yeah, I still need to find some more part-time. I'd like to bring on two in addition to the two that I'm currently trying to bring on, at least. But I don't want too many because, money-wise, but we need officers. So I'm looking, but so is everybody else.
Yeah.
If we could bring him in for swearing in at the next meeting, I think it would be good for everybody to see.
Yeah, and I thought maybe we could, as far as payroll goes, maybe, again, if I don't even know if I have to ask you how that works, but I thought maybe, next pay cycle or next whatever, make it nice, even number. I know I have to send him off for the retirement stuff. It's kind of a pain, but we all have to endure it. Where you got to go breathe into the machine and but, a lot of paperwork. He's excited, so he asked me for the
good.
paperwork yesterday.
No.
Chief, anything else?
No, as long as you guys, gals, aren't opposed to him filling that spot, I have nothing else. And any questions, I'll take them. If not, thank you.
Questions for our chief, anybody? Okay, thank you. Good report. And let's go into committee reports. Anything there committee-wise? Okay.
Kevin had sent me a message for the people on the street committee. and asking if we wanted to do a drive around and what I thought if it was okay with our committee members. Myself and the chief and Kevin talked a little bit earlier where we might use the police department and the street department as our eyes and ears as they're going through their day to check the streets, and if there is a particular problem, then maybe get back to us and target it a little bit better where, rather than us going out and checking every street and do our annual drive-through, if we could just use the employees' eyes as well as ours. So once we hear something back, hopefully, then we can decide if we really want to make that trip or whether we want to hit the highlighted spots that maybe have been mentioned to us. Save everybody a little bit of time and effort. So.
Sounds good.
Mr. Mayor, for the Public Service Committee, we did have a meeting this evening. Obviously, we don't have a report. We have no conclusions yet on what we're deciding, and we have not decided when the next meeting will be because one of our members is currently out of town. So when we decide that, we will let everybody know.
Thank you for that update.
Sure.
Let's go into old business, and I'd like to talk about the vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We did have 4 people respond for interest in volunteering on the, and what it will be is 2 positions that we'll have vacant. Robert Storm, and I think you got his information at the last meeting, lives on Indian Drive. He's an employee at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He's a program manager, also a licensed attorney. He was our first applicant. Our second one came from a Mr. Grant Heminger. And Mr. Heminger is a marketing manager for Pilot Travel, also had worked for Marathon Petroleum, lives on Cimarron Trail. The next one we received was from Mr. Jeremy Least, who lives on Green Valley Drive. And Jeremy works for the city of Springfield as a community development coordinator. And he's been in, property management, zoning, code enforcement, 3 years with the city of Springfield, 5 with the city of Riverside. And he's a longtime resident of the township or the village. And then the last applicant, I think you'll recognize this name, Mr. Beard.
Who's he?
And, Elmer had served on the board. I remember him being he'd been on the planning commission as mayor, but I do remember him serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And, of course, with his experience with the village, again, another good applicant. So we've received 4. It's the council's decision to make the appointments. However, when I look at these and I look at the experience of Mr. Least and Mr. Beard, those look like they would be 2 very good appointments to our Board of Zoning Appeals, but that's just my opinion, and it would be up to the council to choose who they wanted to fill the positions.
I mean, looking at Mr. Storm, he has 10 years of experience on Board of Zoning as well. Zoning board experience.
The spots that we're replacing will be for Evanston, and is it for Dawn? Is the replacement, is that what I recall?
Correct. Yes. So you have 4 applicants and you have 2 spots.
And Lori's continuing to serve as an alternate. Is that what I recall, that she was willing to continue serving as an alternate?
I think
Yes,
Pat?
Lori Pettit. She wants on the board, so, yeah. So who you,
so she could move up and take John Downs' place. If that would be the recommendation of the council, she could go from an alternate to an actual spot there for John Downs, who was looking to move to an alternate's place.
One thing that I think that's important that we think about too is that this is going to be Bud Baker's last year as far as being the presiding official for the zoning board. And it would be important to get somebody that does have a pedigree or have some background, particularly about what I would feel that it would be great to have somebody that we could look at that could come in to be the president of that, that would have enough background as far as either the village or public service that could step into that.
That's, and just looking at Mr. Storms, with the 10 years of Board of Zoning experience, kind of a leadership role as vice chair, I think just seems to have a little more experience than Mr. Least when it comes to that specific role. I love the fact that he's EMS, but Mr. Least. But when you're talking about the Board of Zoning and leadership and experience, if that's what we're looking for, I think Mr. Storm is a pretty viable candidate.
Would the council have any problems of appointing Mr. Beard to the board?
I would personally like to see Elmer continue his service with the village for as long as what he's helped the village, to be honest. But again, that's open to the wishes of everybody else up here.
The advantage of having someone that's been around a while sometimes can provide that history. And I know in those meetings, sometimes history of how things have happened, how they've come to be, can be very important.
The nuances of the village in particular, or past history, comes into play a lot of times on precedents and things of that nature with the zoning board.
I agree. I like seeing the long-termer is someone who has been given his heart and soul to the village already, and I think that, and he's willing to do more. Definitely, we want that experience with us.
I personally have no problem with Elmer being, one of the zoning board trustees or members or whatever we're calling them. I don't remember.
Unfortunately, I can't understand everything that's coming from that side.
You cannot hear, I'm sorry. I said,
I'm not sure if you guys are having that same issue, but I can't hear y'all down there.
maybe I'm too close. I don't know.
Talk
I
slower.
think it might be my ears partially.
It's the mask and the close.
Yeah, but I can hear Rick fine, Not that I want you to tell Connie I can hear, because I think I've got her convinced I don't hear very well, but.
Yeah.
But what I said, Rick, was that I was fine with Elmer being on the board.
Okay. Ben?
I don't even see on Mr. Heminger, however you say it says now, I don't see on here anywhere where it says how long he has lived in our community.
One is a regular, one is a...
Just that he's served at many places,
Right?
and also with Speedway, which is actually not in our community. It's nearby, but it's not in the village. I don't see where it says he's been here for any length of time. So, Mr. Least and Mr. Storm have only been here a couple of years. So, I can't say, I don't really know. I know of Jeremy, I don't know of Mr. Storm, so I don't really know anything about him. So I would leave that to someone who does know their dependability.
I agree. I think Elmer would be a invaluable resource to have back on that committee.
If there are legal issues, he is a lawyer. He does have the experience. I'm, again, talking about Mr. Storm. again, only looking at paper and not being able to interview them, so you really can't figure out what I call people's air, their attitude, their integrity, their sense of responsibility. But just going by paper, to me anyway, it appears that Mr. Storm
Would this be an area
probably adds the
where-
most to the Board of Zoning than even Mr. Least. Not that he's bad, but just who offers more.
Would this be an area where we might want to look at going into an executive session in order to talk about the appointment of somebody to these, or would that not be a proper area to look at this venue?
I think we would need to check on that one.
Yeah, why don't we do that? And then that way we can come out together as a united front as far as who we're going to choose. We can understand each other maybe a little bit better. I would recommend that if my fellow members would not have an objection to that at the next meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
We don't have anything coming up as far as Board of Zoning appeals meetings or anything, correct?
No.
Nothing that's on the docket,
No.
so we don't have to be in any hurry, okay.
The Planning Commission is taken care of, or do we have a void on the Planning Commission as well?
So we have Chuck Wazak that would be up on that one as well, and he has agreed to serve again unless there's a desire for him not to. I don't think they've had a meeting, to be honest with you. So he hasn't had, none of them have had a chance to perform, so.
Would there be any benefit of adding, I'm not sure if we'd have to change our village stats, but to have an alternate on the planning committee?
We could look into that. You're right, we'd have to go in and change the ordinance that creates the establishment of that, I believe. We could look at it, though.
Yeah, it's something to think about, maybe.
Sure. We'll check on the other for the executive session part, and we'll revisit this at the next meeting.
Does anybody have any objection to that?
No, because
That's fine.
personnel issues are one of the main reasons for exec sessions, so I don't think that would be an issue at all.
No, I think I've been better venue to talk about it, and then that we're all, yeah.
All right, so do we have any other business?
I got one more thing that I forgot to
Talk
say.
about
The
Mr.
record,
Seifert. Go ahead.
the Records Commission is scheduled for.
Thank you, I was
before the
so
next
looking forward to
meeting
that.
at 6:30 before council on the 23rd.
6:30 before the next council meeting.
Correct.
All right, good deal. Anything else?
I'll be here at
Yes,
5:45, so I don't miss anything.
That music.
With reading Kevin's letter, I think I would throw it to my fellow council members to see if we could maybe draft a letter that would be council's request of TCC to look at this as well, and to send it under the banner of council. Your thoughts, Dave?
You mean in addition to his?
I mean, the letters are good, but it's the discussion and being able to sell. The importance of doing this is more important than the letters, having the facts behind
Right.
why it's so critical for us to pay from Green Vista to Dayton Springfield. If you can sell that in a presentation, that'll carry more weight than a letter to, the TCC, or two letters to the TCC. I mean, having just served on it for, the past year, I've seen that in action. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Rick. I'm just saying.
No, I
that
understand.
We just need hard-hitting facts why
And-
it's really critical to do this, because selling that criticality is going to make the difference between paving it and having it not be paved.
And we're in the ninth inning now too. You know, we're right at the final times. But I'm like you. I'm would love to see them go back with what I think was originally presented to us to do that entire stretch and to do it part time, and especially the shape that road's in. I think is short-sighted and not in the best interest of the village whatsoever. So, personally.
Anything else? Kevin, do we have any callers on tonight?
I think, anybody on the phone?
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Elmer.
Hi, Elmer.
Howdy.
You have any comments?
Nope. Crews did a great job getting the roads cleared this week and last week, so pass that along.
I will, thank you.
Thanks for the positive comments. Well,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Same sign.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, we're here.
I have 7:52.
Hey, you know what? On that
what I
street
got.
thing, I got an idea for you. That's all for me. What if you created an online PDF document where residents could download it and submit it electronically